Welcome to the Pagan Playground, week 10 of the YouTube Pagan Challenge. And this is, what do the phases of the moon mean to you? And I think they're really, really, really important. For someone like me who likes to wander, and if you've been here long enough, you could probably see that. You know, it's nice to kind of have a monthly check-in per se, and something you can kind of come back to and sort of reboot. And pardon me, I have a cold. And I've always been drawn to the moon. And as I look up, I don't know if you can quite see in the abyss that is the hallway, that silver round thing with a flag. And the church I was a part of wanted me to do something space themed. I think it was something for Sunday school. And I had a field day with it. And it's a styrofoam ball that I stabbed with like a pencil to make the crater and a little American flag. And you can't see the little footprint I glued on. And that was like the only thing that I wanted to keep from that. I have no idea what space had to do with Sunday school, but that was the one thing I wanted to keep. And for as far back as I can remember, the full moon especially, of course, I'm one that I'm grateful for Carl Sagan, because, and if you don't know who he is, you must know. Cosmos, Google it. This man, as an adult, and I'm watching him as a kid, watching Cosmos, who did an episode on every conceivable thing I was ever remotely interested in, and now looking back on that, rewatching that, it's made me kind of realize that there are other people, adults especially, who kind of were in the same spot where people are like, why do you want to know that? You know, you're so weird. Just because he understood and was, I don't know if proud, but he acknowledged the fact that it's okay, especially as an adult, to look up and or around and just go, wow. Now, I love looking up on a clear night, whether the lady is up in the sky or if she's in dark moon phase, and you just sort of go like, wow. I mean, even the sun, you don't see that light until 9 minutes after the fact. So I guess the sun is always 9 minutes late. So, you know, that astronomical thing is important to me, and I always, for some weird reason, always considered the moon a sister. I always considered her sister moon, and I was always drawn just watching her, especially if you're driving, well, not necessarily as you're driving, but as you're a passenger in a car while driving. And it was always kind of neat to see her follow you, and it was just sort of, it wasn't just this thing up in the sky, there was something, malleable is not a word, liquid, moving, dynamic is the word I'm looking for, about the moon. And even studying astronomy, knowing that, in some sense, it's, I know, giant rock in sky, but even that is cool. The fact that we have tides, kind of important to know. You know, it's not just there to look pretty. She serves a purpose. And the prevailing theory is, and recently they've been sort of saying that, you know, Earth is actually a dual planet, because there was another planet, Mars-sized, way back in Earth's youth, that wasn't a head-on collision. It was a side swipe, and that sent off debris and broke up the planet's name, which I believe was Thea, and, you know, kind of broke it up, and once they coalesced, Earth became Earth, and we ended up with the moon. So, in a way, we are siblings because we are of those sources. I mean, she just didn't, there she was. So, there's so much to the moon that's interesting and fascinating, and I understand, you know, the mythological sense. So, I'm still kind of working with the other phases of the moon. I kind of want to do more with the dark moon, kind of understand what that means more than just like the full moon. And the next one coming up is the ice moon, but there's various different names to the moon depending where you are, but I chose ice moon, especially with the weather we've been having. And I plan on charging my latest oracle deck and cleansing and charging, and I have a little spot right there because that's my window. Though the other room I sort of had a better view of the lady, but then it depends on the time of the year too. So, which is one reason my altar is where it is, because north is in a that-away direction. So I have to work with what I got. And I kind of taken different pieces from different places, again trying to gather the similarities and what works, and you know, I'm still kind of learning and adjusting, which is again a nice thing to have the Esbits every month, where you can kind of, okay, get, you know, you can do the whole ceremony. I do the cakes and ale, and I try to do the theme of that month. You know, there's usually a concept behind the moon phase and all that stuff. So I find it very, very important. And side story, last year was a super moon eclipse, and I think it was a blue moon too. I mean, this was something that won't happen for another 13 years, and I don't know, but I think it's on my other channel. If it hasn't gone up, I will most likely put it up. This is sort of what I could record of that day. The super moon eclipse, I think, is the episode there. And I couldn't, it was a day I kind of had to work, so I wasn't here. So I kind of created like a little mini altar out of a pill case like this, but it's a little bigger. So I had like salt, and I don't know what I used for water. Oh, I think I had like shells, and I had sort of the 4 elements and then different things. And I had gotten, I try to get something special for the Esbits and Sabbats, as far as like cakes and ale, something purposely for that theme, not something I would drink on a day-to-day basis, because I want it to be something special. So I had gotten, I think, some wine coolers, which is why I don't have beer. I have yet to meet a beer that I like. So I'm sorry, guys, you're just not getting any beer. So, you know, I had that, got some Milano cookies, set it aside, and of all the people to experience this with, because even Mother wanted to see this thing, we went to the ice cream place, because there's a couple of them and I can't remember which name is what, and you knew this was, I'm sure that this was sort of a thing that happens most eclipses. I don't know if they quite understood well, they must have been astronomers, but we got there and there were like 3 or 4 other cars with telescopes, and I'm like, yes, nerd fest. But they were far enough away so I could kind of do what I wanted to do discreetly. And we were there, and we spent the entire time, the entire eclipse, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning when it was finished. I think we got there around like 6, 7 o'clock. I can't remember. I got the film where I was at during the beginning of the phase, and it was just into like the full eclipse phase, and it was just this honestly magical experience. And again, experiencing it with Mother is just the irony there. And it was indescribable. I mean, the supermoon is when the moon is closest to us, because she doesn't go in like a circular, like the rings of Saturn. There's an elliptical, which is why she's getting farther and farther away. So this was a point where she's closest to the Earth. And then it's a total eclipse, where and when it totally went black, and you're out in the countryside, I saw stars that I didn't know existed. I swear I saw the Pleiades, and I fortunately remembered to bring my binoculars, because I couldn't break out like I'd like to get like a little telescope, but the binoculars worked. And I had my tablet that has like a program that tells you what stars are what. I'm like, I'm damn sure I found the Pleiades, and then you could see the Milky Way. So when the face of the lady is hidden, this wonderment happens, and then the lady showed her face again, and it became obscured, but there's a whole different beauty. And I swear I got moonburn, because I could feel like my face tingle. It was just, and I didn't want to like I know what drawing down the moon is, but I thought that was like way too powerful, especially for a beginner, you know what I mean? But I felt that power, but it wasn't like, you know, sucking in the dark side of the force. It was just this indescribable, amazing thing. So, okay, there's Mother trying picking weeds or doing something, and she likes to pick the grass. And I'm like, okay, here's my chance to kind of give the offering, and I couldn't kind of, you know, with her there going, okay, here's, you know, I did it in my head, here's the little drink, which I can't remember how I think I maybe saved a little bit of it in the thing, so I tried to quickly pour the drink on the thing, and then tossed my Milano cookie for the cake and ale offering. And then dumbass comes around. What's that? I'm like trying to hide it like under the car, you know. And I'm sure the lady's going like, I understand. And she's like wanting to pick it up, and I'm like, you don't know what this is. Why are you touching that? Which is kind of what I told her, and I'm telling her, you know, it's an offering, get your hands off. So it was like, but it was the most amazing experience ever. And when I use my holy water, I charge in the moonlight my water, so I have charged water that I have in like a little jar, mason jar of that moon, and I wrote on it exactly it, so that's like my super water there tucked in the back here. So the moon phases are really important to me, and it's the ones you work with most often because the Sabbats only come 8 times a year, and that was the year we ended up. I think it was a blue moon too. I mean, this thing was a mega waha moon. So, and the fact that I was on the path, my first turn of the wheel, to experience that in its entirety, in the pagan aspect of it and the scientific one, it was just awesome. So, that is my long-winded answer to the phases of the moon, week 10 of the YouTube Pagan Challenge. And again, I'm still learning about the other phases, and I'm trying to remember which one's waxing and which one's waning. Just calculate, okay? So, thank you for watching, and blessed be.